Shoot.
What?
Oh, this stupid. Wait a minute. I'm just trying to get. I'm still like struggling with the damn Zoom. You know, it's partly. Okay.
Well, the thing with Zoom is there's several steps.
I know, but it's just. Oh, for God's sake. It's just not doing what I want it to. Okay.
Well, who does like the physical?
Well, right now I'm just trying to get Joseph in. I mean, I will have a list, but I'm not there. Okay. This is fucking annoying. Okay, let me try it again. So now I need to invite him.
Right? Is he expecting to be invited?
Yes.
Okay. Does Gmail.
Right. Now.
Minimize. How you're doing this, I'm not certain.
See, this is what I mean. It doesn't work.
Well,
I do what it tells me to do, and it doesn't work.
Okay, well, there's different steps.
It's frustrating. All right.
And what you're doing is at the last minute.
Right.
If you did it last night, then...
Yes, obviously that would have been better. But I didn't have my computer last night. All right, let's see. Wait a minute. Okay. So
it says...
See, when I click on this and then I click on that.
Right, minimize.
It says that I can't.
What? I'm not familiar with it. This is a Mac?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Fuck this. And I just worked on this yesterday because I have created a permanent NADON link, but this is not, it's not working.
Okay. You don't have a minimize over here? It's over here?
Yep.
Okay, so where is your Gmail? It should be on the bottom, in the tray.
It would be here, Gmail.
Okay, so here it says, just put his email address. And send.
All right.
Then go back to Zoom.
That doesn't seem right. Let's see. No?
Well, it should be in the tray, right down at the bottom.
Well, but I mean, I'm already here.
Right. So you're trying to do it several times. See, here you go. It should be good.
Okay. Then we should get our bats.
The thing with Zoom is it is several steps, and you have to walk it through in sequence.
Okay. So any particular spots you need to work on?
Let's see, my right knee. You know, as you can see, when I'm down on the ground, it's hard for me to get up.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a nerve thing.
That's a which thing?
Nerve.
Okay.
Because it's the same thing. I mean, on the one side, my knees are weak, but on the other side, no matter what, when it comes for me to get up, it's like I have to go. body, you're going to get up now.
Mm.
And then sometimes it doesn't have body, you're going to get up now. So I think it's a nerve, like my brain is not fully communicating to my knees.
Oh, here he is. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll do pelvis, knees, and lower body.
It's re-educating.
Yes. All right. Well, we're gonna do lower body today.
Perfect. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for the link.
Sorry it took so long. I'm still figuring out how to make it do
I'm
it.
furious. But yeah, thank you. I got the link, so we're all good. Hey, Shelly.
Hey, it never does it automatically. Ever.
Well, Nadon does now. So,
Okay.
all right.
Perfect.
So let's start with our legs extended, hands by our sides, taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, letting your ribs relax in the mat. And begin by just observing, starting at your feet, observing whether or not the angle of the feet is the same. And you can feel what part of the heel is touching the mat, whether it's the back or the side. And perhaps also observing from side to side for symmetry. Is it the same or is one somehow different? And as you move upward, you can also check out your calves. What part of the calf is touching your knees? And as you get to your knees, try to observe in particular how much space there is behind the knee, whether it seems as if the knees are pointing out to the sides or are pointing up toward the ceiling, and again, whether it's the same on the right or the left. And take a moment and image your knees. How clear are your knees in your body image? Just notice that now at the beginning, because we will be working on them. Sensing and feeling up the thighs, what parts are touching, what parts are not. And then your pelvis as it lays on the mat. Do you have more weight on one buttock or the other? Is your rib cage resting on the mat? Observing your shoulders. How far out from your spine are the shoulder blades, and is it the same? Also, where are the shoulder blades relative to your head? Is one higher or one lower? Are they pulling up? Are they relaxing back? Noticing what part of your head is resting on the mat. And then just bringing your attention to your neck. Just maybe take your hands, slide your fingers under your neck, observe how much space there is. 1.5 to 2 fingers would be good. And maybe pick up your head, lengthening the back of your neck, setting your head back down squarely on the mat. And then let's bring our knees up so the feet are standing, and using your thigh muscles, lift your lower spine and wrap the back lightly on the mat. Setting it back down, lifting your head, lengthening the back of your neck. Before we turn to the pelvis, let's just do a few movements, rolling the head side to side, just gently loosening the upper spine. And then adding in the arms so that as your head rolls right, your right hand slides down toward your feet, your right shoulder moves out of the way, head left, arm left. And your shoulder blades are going up and down on either side of the spine. Mm. And stop and just let your arms come up as if you're holding a beach ball. Wrap your shoulder blades, just releasing the shoulder girdle, the arms. Then let your arms go back down by your sides. And let's turn our attention to the pelvis. So begin by just gently loosening the pelvis. So tip your tailbone up, roll right up to the top of the sacrum, roll back down, letting the tailbone tip down, letting the lumbar spine come up, and maybe even the bottom of the rib cage, and then rolling back through, tailbone up, just rolling from the top rim of the sacrum down to the bottom. Feeling the way the spinal cord and the lumbar spine is stretching, the vertebra pulling apart ever so slightly, and the way the lumbar spine gets a little massage. And stop that and letting your feet be hip distance apart, like your knees go to the right, head right, up and over to the left. Rolling across your buttocks. Just letting the fascia in the sides lengthen, stretch a little bit. Imaging the way the lower spine is turning. And then stop. Let your head lengthen your neck again and take a moment and just sense your pelvis. And slide your right leg out and very gently wrap the back of the knee. Imaging as you do that, the way the bones flatten a little and space becomes less. Feeling perhaps whatever you can on the sides of the knee, the top of the knee.
and stop. And then you can again draw that knee back up and put your right hand on top of your right knee. Let your right foot come up off the floor. So you're just kind of holding your kneecap, and take a moment and sense and image and feel the kneecap, the knee itself under your hand. You can image the way that big bone of the femur comes down and then sits on top of the heads of the two lower leg bones, the tibia and fibula. And on top of that, a little kneecap and lots of tendons on the sides, sort of weaving the three bones together. And then continuing just to gently hold the knee. You can begin to make circles with the lower leg, circling, making as if you were drawing a circle in the air with your foot. So the lower leg is circling on the knee, and just sensing and feeling the knee as you do that. You can make big circles and little circles, and you can also make them clockwise, counterclockwise. Really trying to feel the different muscles that are involved, the muscles of the thigh, the hamstrings on the sides. And stop and just very gently draw the knee in toward your chest for a moment, just relaxing. And then you can think about how we have the hamstrings, which come along the sides and their tendons and hook onto the two bones of the lower leg, and then run along the back of the thigh and hook onto the bottom of your pelvis, the ischial tuberosity, and just gently pulling your knee in toward your chest to stretch those hamstrings a little. You can also then press your tailbone down so your pelvis is tipping down and the lumbar spine's coming up a little, and you can feel that stretch right where the hamstring attaches onto the ischial tuberosities, and release, letting your back flatten again, then pressing down, tailbone down, and then release, and just doing that kind of sort of sense into the hamstrings, maybe getting them to lengthen a little at the attachments so we can have a little more freedom on the other end where the knee is. And stop and just letting your left arm come back down by your side, putting your right hand once again on your kneecap, maybe the fingers, sensing into the knee, then just letting the right foot come up toward the ceiling and then dropping it so that the heel bounces off the bottom or the back of the thigh, whatever it does. Just coming up and dropping and up and dropping, feeling the way the knee is like a hinge joint. And as the foot comes up, you can sense and feel the way the hamstrings lengthen, and as the foot drops down, you can feel the quads, the top of the thigh has to lengthen. So those two muscle groups are, one is lengthening while the other shortens. Let's see if you can sense and feel that. And then stop, and again, just hold the knee for a second, resting, sensing into the joint. And then bicycle with the knee, very gently trying to let the foot go straight out and straight back. So you might want, when you're doing that, if your knee wants to pull to the outside or to the inside, see if you can keep the knee and the ankle going straight out and straight back. That may be difficult if you have a lot of inward or outward turn in the knee, but just do the best you can. And then stop, let the foot come down and just rest for a moment. And then imagine that from your ischial tuberosity, you have a line on your mat going straight down, and your heel is resting on that line. And you're going to slide your foot and your heel out, staying on the line until the leg is straight, trying to keep the knee over the line, and then drag the heel back up, bringing your heel as close as feels good to your bottom, and sliding it out, and keeping that knee and that foot again over the line, that imaginary line. Sensing and feeling the way the knee and the hip and the foot are working together, which is ideally what would be happening when you walk. Then make a few more movements and then stop. And take a moment again and sense and feel an image. The right knee. How does it feel? How clear is the image? And sense the left. And then let's bring our left side into the equation a little, so catch it up, so to speak. Start by sliding your left leg down and out and wrap the back of the knee. And stop and draw that knee back up. Letting your left foot come up off the mat, putting your left hand on top of the knee, sensing into the joint. And then maybe beginning to circle the foot in the air, drawing big circles and little circles, letting the lower leg circle at the joint. And whenever you need to, if you need to rest, you can do that, but just sensing the joint. And then stop and drawing the knee in toward the chest, rest for just a moment. Again, sensing if you can into those hamstrings and imaging where they attach on the bottom of the pelvis. Then tip the tailbone down, letting the lumbar spine come up a little, stretching that hamstring. So you're drawing the knee in toward your chest, and then you're getting the attachment by pressing down. and then releasing, letting your back flatten again, and then press down, flatten. And just doing that, gently sensing into the hamstring. And you might even notice if you have your hands sort of on the side of the knee with your fingers interlaced on top, what happens at the hamstring tendons on the sides. And you can also sense, of course, the attachments, the way the leg wants to move. And then stop and relax. And letting your right arm rest on the mat. You can keep your left hand on the knee or around the knee somewhere, and letting your foot come up in the air toward the ceiling. Just drop the foot, letting it bounce off the back of your leg or your thigh, come back up and drop. Just try to make that movement as light and as easy as you can, sensing into the joint the way it's functioning like a hinge, sensing the way as the foot comes up, the quadricep shortens, the hamstring lengthens. As the foot drops down, the hamstring shortens, quadricep lengthens. Then stop. And again, draw the knee in toward your chest, just resting. And again, trying to remember to keep the knee and the ankle moving in parallel fashion. Just begin bicycling with the left leg in the air. Feeling the knee coming straight back toward the chest, the foot straight out. Stop and put the foot back down for a moment, just resting, feet hip distance apart, and imaging that line coming from the ischial tuberosity all the way downward. It's sliding your heel and your foot out along that line, letting the knee stay over it, coming all the way out, and then dragging the heel back up toward your pelvis as much as feels good. And out. And then stop. Bringing the knee back up, letting the feet be hip distance apart, letting your arms be by your sides, palms down once again, and you can let your head go with the movement. Let both knees and head go right, up, back to the middle, over to the left, rolling very gently and easily, and feeling as you roll across the pelvis, but also focusing on the knees, the sensation in your knees, the thighs, hamstrings. and then stop and roll for a moment onto your left side with your head pillowed on your left arm, your knees together, bent, coming up a bit, and reach down with your right hand and grab, if you can, your ankle, your foot. If you can't, your pant leg, you get all that you can reach. You can let your knees come apart. And in fact, this movement might be easier if you let your upper thigh point straight down. And then you're going to just gently draw the heel across the buttocks from top to bottom. And don't worry about it. Just do whatever you can. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's not. Just small movements are fine too. So you want your pelvis to be more or less still. It's the foot and the leg that are moving. And make a few more movements, then stop. Put your knees back together, one foot on top of the other. And very gently swing your top leg out and back and out and back. And yeah, keep your knees together. So it's the lower leg swings out as if you were kicking a football, and then back as if you wanted to kick yourself in the bottom. Sense and feel into the knee, what the knee is doing. Then stop and rest. And then roll onto your right side with your right arm up, your head pillowed on your right arm, your knees together, resting on the side of the pelvis, one foot on top of the other. And then again, reach down and grab your foot, your toes, your heel, pant leg, whatever. And again, before you begin the movement, see if you can let the knees come apart now and just bring the thigh so it's pointing down toward your other foot. So the leg is really pretty straight. And then taking your heel, drag it across your buttock or whatever you can reach from top to bottom. Keeping the pelvis still. So the movement is really at the knee. And then you can stop and put both knees together. And then, like as if you were kicking a football, kick your foot out and then bring it back as if you wanted to kick yourself in the bottom. So it's out and back. Keeping the knees more or less together. And sensing and feeling the way the hinge of the knee is moving. And then stop and rest. Then rolling onto your belly for a moment. And you can sort of press your pubic bone into the mat and lengthen your legs out as far as you can. And then rest one hand on top of the other. Put your forehead on top of your hands and then just gently, as if you were a little child, kick your right foot up as if you wanted to kick yourself in the bottom, then your left. and then your right, and then your left. So you're just sort of casually laying there, kicking. And again, just do what feels good. Then stop with both feet in the air. Maybe your knees are separated on the mat by a few inches, but just circle, and you can circle them together, your feet in the air, circling on the knees, sensing into the knees as you do that, circling in the opposite direction. And then stop, and maybe you can circle your feet in opposite directions. And again, reversing that. And stop for just a moment and letting your knees be more or less still. Just circle your feet on your ankles. So you're just sort of gently waking up your ankle. And again, you could do them in opposite directions, or you can do them together. Maybe explore both. Just waking up the ankles. But also sensing into your knees. What are these movements doing at the knee joint? And then stop. And then just roll gently onto your back. Lift your pelvis, wrap it once or twice, set it back down. Lift your head, lengthening the back of your neck, setting it back down. Letting your feet be hip distance apart with your knees drawn up. And then again, just very gently, let your knees go to the right and then up, over to the left, rolling, and maybe letting your head go with that movement, sensing the movement of the lumbar spine, the neck, the knees, the ankles. And then stop. And take a moment now and sense your knees, image your knees. How clear are they in your body? Image. And you might compare them to the ankles or the hips. We're going to finish by doing one other little thing. So I want you to think about how, once again, the arrangement of the bones, the femur with its big head sitting on top of the platform formed by the heads of the two lower leg bones, the tibia, which is your shin, the fibula, which is the smaller bone out on the side. And at the bottoms of those two bones, the tib and fib, you have like the ankle bones, malleoli, as we call them. And then they sit on top of the platform of your heel. Now, sensing and feeling your feet, maybe gently spreading out your toes a little and feeling the platform of the foot, the heel, the way the arch lifts or doesn't. And on top of that, you can image the 2 ankle bones with the legs, leg bones. And we're going to like very gently feel the way when something shifts in the ankle, it affects your knees. So I want you to be sensing and imaging and feeling your knees. So start by lifting the outer arch, letting your inner ankle bone drop toward the mat. Hold your upper thighs with your hands so that your knees are not like bumping into each other. Keep them more or less stable, and then stop and drop flat. And then roll onto the outer arch, keeping the knees still, and then drop flat. And keep doing that, going inner malleoli down, flat, outer malleoli down, flat. But feel the way you feel it in your knee. This is why people who go around, which would be most of us, with our weight more on one side of the foot than the other, has a big impact on your knees. And if you have your hands on the tops of your thighs just to hold your knees, you can steady-ish. You can even notice perhaps the muscles of the inner thigh, the outer thigh toward the edges. And if you drop both feet onto the inner arch for a moment, lifting the outer arch, you can feel how your knees want to become knock-kneed and then go flat. And then when you drop onto both outer arches, your knees want to pull out and you want to become more bow-legged. And you could probably feel that all the way up to where the hamstrings attach on the pelvis. But just explore, make a few more movements in both directions, really sensing and feeling and imaging up and down the leg. So often we have knee problems, but they're caused by many things. Excess weight, of course. The knee is the most weight-bearing joint in the body. But more often than not, it's really misalignments. How we're standing on our feet, what we're doing with the various muscles of the thigh. And stop and relax. Just let your hands be by your sides. Take a moment, slide your right leg out, wrap the back of the right knee. Imaging, sensing, feeling. And then stop and just let the foot go. Maybe flex the right foot a little bit and then release, just to give yourself a lovely stretch up the back of the calf to the back of the knee. And then relax. Slide your left leg out, wrap the back of the knee, sensing and feeling. And then flexing, stretching the back of the knee, and release. Do that a few times. And then let that foot go and take a moment and sense and feel your pelvis as it lays on the mat. Just observe where your weight is resting, whether it's the same as when you began or whether it's a bit more balanced. Perhaps it is. Sensing the thighs and what parts of them are touching and what parts are not, and sensing the knee joint. Perhaps it's a bit flatter. You wouldn't want your knee to be absolutely flat. That would mean it was hyperextended, but you also don't want like it to be really in flexion, you know, popping up off the floor. You want it to be, you know, there'll be a little space, but you don't want a lot. And observe the angle of the knees. Are they pointing out to the sides? Probably a little bit in this position. If you roll your legs so that you're resting on your heel and your knees are straight up, you'll notice your legs are not relaxed. Just let them go. Observing down to the ankles, the feet, what part of the heel is touching. And again, just observing the rotation of the two legs and any similarity or dissimilarity you might observe. And then let's stop by just taking a moment or two for ourselves, just breathing, drawing a deep breath in and feeling your chest expand, your belly, your pelvic floor descend, your inner thighs perhaps opening ever so slightly. And then as you exhale, just letting all the air out, letting the pelvic floor rise, letting the belly sink, the chest sink, the shoulder blades, the jaw. And inhaling. And exhaling, releasing heels, backs of the knees, the buttocks, the lumbar spine. And as you breathe, just sensing and feeling the connection all the way down to your feet, as if you were breathing into your legs. And letting your body just fill with air. And empty and relax, sink into weight and mass and gravity. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today.
Namaste.
Ah,
That was a good one out there.
Thank you.
I'm loving these targeted classes. They're really, really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We don't pay very much attention to our knees except when they hurt, but they're very complicated joints.
Yeah, but it was so interesting how it really did all impact the pelvis.
Right.
That was what was so interesting about it. You did some things there, yeah, I've never done with you before.
What was that?
The straight one out from the heel.
Oh, yeah, right.
Before. I never did this pull back with the ankle before. A couple of them I've never seen done before, so it was really interesting.
Good. You know,
Yeah.
that movement of the imaginary line, that's a Laban Bartenieff movement.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's
Okay.
called the pre-psoas lift. And its intention is to get you to feel the awareness of the knee and the ankle. But you know what's interesting is what I was noticing at the end with the breathing, and I don't know, maybe you didn't notice it too, but as the diaphragm descends when you're breathing in, you know, the diaphragm, the psoas attachment on the spine is right where the diaphragm is. And so if you're really sensing into your legs, there's this way where you can feel how the breath moves through the psoas all the way down the legs. It's just interesting. And when we set foot on the ground, when we walk, what happens is, you know, you think to yourself, okay, take a stop. And the brain sends a signal down the spine, triggers the psoas activates, it lifts the knee.
right? Because the psoas tendon activates the quadricep lifts the knee. So if we're really well organized, every time we're walking from the psoas,
That's
you
great.
know. And but of course that is
the diaphragm aspect.
yeah, exactly. And so impaired breathing, people who are, are chest breathers that don't breathe at all into the belly, that will interfere with walking. The other thing is, it's what I call the Clint Eastwood walk, where if the knee is not very well organized, when you walk, you pick up the leg and you swing it around instead of it coming out. So when you're doing that,
It took me so long to learn that, Althea.
what?
It took me so long to learn how to walk like Clint Eastwood.
Oh God, yeah.
Now I have to unlearn it.
Or not Clint Eastwood. It's Al Pacino.
Al Pacino.
Like that. Yeah. Eastwood probably does too, though. Yeah, but it's a really interesting thing, because when you do that, you're lifting your leg by activating the hip flexors, and the psoas is not in the picture very much. So, that's one of the things that's characteristic of where the core is not really working, right?
Yeah.
Does he smoke cigars? I have no clue.
I mean, if a person is a cigar smoker,
Right, they're mouth
they
breathing.
probably are not breathing very deep, and so it would impact the diaphragm, the psoas,
Yeah.
etc.
Well, I actually think the real thing about Al Pacino is he started his career as a dancer, and he's a brilliant dancer, by the way. If you ever see Son of a Woman, oh my God. But he like many dancers, his knees are not great. Ever watch Baryshnikov walk? Now he's fascinating because he's trashed his knees from years of ballet, but he still uses his core perfectly, unlike Al Pacino. But you can see it all the way up his spine as he's walking. But one of the things that happens often with dancers is when they're not paying attention, they're doing this.
Yep, that's true.
And it's because of knees. And also from years of, if they did ballet, years of turnout.
Yeah.
Which is one reason why I'm not a fan of ballet for children under the age of 8 or 9, because the core hasn't kicked in yet. It can't until about the age of 8 or 9, and they're using all the wrong muscles to make those movements, and then they will tend to do that as they go on. The same thing is true of teaching children stringed instruments at 3, because they can do it, but they have to use big outer body muscles to get that fine motor control, because their bodies aren't ready to do it yet.
Right.
So forget about Suzuki. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Or do Suzuki, like you can be teaching them about music and stuff, but don't use things that require, like percussion is good, singing is good.
Well, Suzuki's those teeny little violins.
I know, but the problem is it requires so much fine motor movement. And so what happens is, and I see this all the time, piano as well, you see little kids and they become adult performers, and they end up coming to see someone like me because their necks are a mess.
Yeah.
Because they learned how to get that fine motor movement at an age where they had to use the sleeve muscles to do it. So you have to retrain them. And what's ironic about it is often they're fine when they're performing in front of an audience because they're losing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's when they're practicing that they really screw themselves up.
Wow.
Anyway, we got to stop, but thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. That was fantastic.
Good.